Hi, thank you for joining me for this show. I am so excited. This is Mama Bears on Purpose. My name is Laura Sheffield. We are doing this show, just me today. Me and Wendy usually do these shows, but today is a super special and near and dear to my heart show called A Life of Impact. I have thought about this topic for quite a while. I've actually prayed about it. I wanted to have something that I talked about that I thought could relate to almost everybody. So whether you are a teenager, whether you are a brother, sister, parent, husband, wife, what does it look like for you to lead a life of impact? So that's what I'm going to talk about today. So I want to start off by reading. I think there's a lot of things I could read for this. Our last show we did read Psalm 1. So if you don't know Psalm 1, read it on your own. It's so good, and it actually teaches you in the first 10 verses. I've written it down, but 8 ways that you can live. But I'm going to read Psalm 19:14. It says, "May the words of my heart and the meditation of my heart be pleasing in your sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer." I think if you make that a cry of your heart, that the things that come out of your mouth and then what your heart reflects, if those things impact God and the way you live, then your life will be impactful wherever you are. But what does that look like? Why don't we have people that actually live impactful lives all the time? Well, because it's hard. Some of the things we talked about in our last show were that it does take structure and it does take discipline, and you have to structure your life around some of that discipline to actually live a life of impact. But I want to teach you and I want to show you that it's possible, that you can live a life of impact, not only 24 hours a day, but no matter where you are. So what does a life of impact look like? It looks like, and I'm a firm believer, that whether you're a stay-at-home mom, whether you're a janitor at a multi-million-dollar company, whether you are someone that's retired and you decide to start volunteering somewhere, whether you're someone that decides to, okay, I'm going to donate my clothing, and you go there and that particular day they're short staffed, so you volunteer your time, your life impacts others. Whatever you do, it doesn't matter. So I am a firm believer that if you live your life that way, wherever you go, you shouldn't leave that place the same. And that's how I try to live. Do I do it 100% perfect all the time? No. Because none of us do. And that's what it is when we live in God's grace and mercy. We might think, gosh, I might have or could have done that a little bit differently. But if you think with the mentality and even the spiritual eyes of, how can I impact others today? How can I impact my marriage? How can I plant seeds that are going to grow in my marriage today? What does that look like? Could I, write my spouse a note and leave it in their car? These different things. How could I be impactful in my parenting today? What can I teach my kids? Could I let go of a couple of things so we just play? I thought of this the other day because my husband was gone on a business trip and it was just myself and my youngest home. So I kind of just let him pick some things. I thought, what would he remember later? Would he remember that the kitchen is spotless? Which I do like to have a spotless kitchen. But I thought, no, he would remember that I played and no one else was home. So we played spike ball in the backyard, and it was cooler. The sun had gone down. So I liked that I wasn't melting half to death. But he likes to play pool. So we did that. But I think it can happen in the seemingly mundane moments or the big things. Another, for instance, was that my sister moved and my husband was going on a business trip, and there was some things going on that week, and it might not have been the most ideal time to help somebody move. She needed our truck. But is it ever? Is it ever an ideal time to help somebody move when we are choosing to love God and love others? And if it says in John that those are the greatest 2 things that we could be doing is love God and love others, is it ever going to be convenient? Is it ever going to be easy? Is it ever going to be that it's blissful? I don't think it is. I really don't. I think that we have to work every single day, work at our marriages, work at being a good parent. Do you ever see someone that is at their job and they're just nah, and then they've gotten awards or they've gotten promoted? Usually no. These days, possibly there's people that just get promoted and they shouldn't. But really, if you want to live a life of impact, it is an effort. You have to put an effort into a life of impact. And you kind of have to roll with things here and there. Because there's things that are going to get in your way all the time. So you don't live a life of impact. So that's why you need to do it on purpose. You can impact others from the moment you wake up. You ever thought about that? I think about it all the time. I really do. Because sometimes I've had a weird little mom goofy dream or fantasy where I'm like, I wonder what it would be like if I just didn't get up today. Not because I'm sick, but just because if I didn't, like I just laid there in bed and I just stayed in my pajamas. I could do that. I could just say I'm taking a day off. But I really choose not to every day. Every day I think I can make breakfast for Matt, or I can do X, Y, and Z. I can grow. Like every day I look forward to growing in my walk with God because I spend time in his presence. I'll pray over my garden. I ask God during the day who I could text or talk to or see, who would need something like an encouragement, anything, whatever that would be. So I truly think from the moment you wake up till the time you go to sleep, your life could impact others if you so choose. The way that I choose to start my day is I'll turn on either worship music or just have it be quiet for a little while. So that's why I say from the moment you wake up. I'll have my Bible study book out, a journal where I'm taking notes, my prayer book. I'll ask the Holy Spirit, besides who I already have written down, who would need prayer that day. And then I'll keep that and kind of check in on some of those people, some of the things I'm praying for. And then I will put worship music on. Sometimes if I don't feel done, but it's already been like 45 minutes or sometimes an hour, I'll leave my stuff out because I just think, you know what, I don't have to do it where the kids don't see, but they could see that this is what it looks like, how I start my day. And then I'll come back if I have time or there's different aspects of what I want to read or study a little bit further. But that's how I start my day. And I think if you want to start your day where you ask God and you say, okay, today I want to start where my life impacts others, start it with where you allow God to impact you. It's not going to be that you do 50 to 100 steps of, okay, God, use me, have my life be this certain way, this is what I want to do. It might not be like that. But when you start off your day in maybe a different way than you started before, I have a friend that I've poured into, and she says since she has been in God's Word, since she has put worship music on in the morning, since she has turned just her meditation time to actual having a relationship with Jesus and praying, she has seen the change. All of that has made a difference in the way that she has chosen to start her day. And my daughters asked me, Mom, does it have to be that you have your quiet time in the morning? Okay, you're not going to get in trouble from God, but if you start your day off like that, I think it has an effect on your whole entire day. You can ask God, what's your will for me today? Hey, this is what I was thinking, but is there something different? I do think it makes a difference to have it be that's how you start your day. And there is verses that, that say the joy of the Lord is our strength, or in the morning I look to you. The morning is the morning. To me, that's right when you wake up. What are your thoughts? What are you doing? What are you concentrating on? I think it affects everything you do. And it puts in my heart my even assignment from God, which might be different from what I thought my assignment or my plans looked like for the day. It also, just so you know, problems, issues, stresses, what do you want to call it, anxiety, things that I might have thought were this insurmountable big issues the night before, or who knows, or that I'm looking at the day thinking it might be like that. It's really not when I'm in the presence of God. A lot of those things melt away, and he teaches me how to deal with each of those things and how to trust him and to see that he is really working it all out for my good. What else does a life of impact look like? Well, if you're starting it off like that, then it's also 1,000 choices a day. If you have every single choice of yours and you are thinking that each one of your choices could impact others, I think it'll change your choices. It really will. I think that it'll change the way you speak. If you are someone that maybe spoke before thinking before, but you are thinking, okay, if I want to live a life that impacts others, I don't want to just fly off the handle. I don't want to use these cuss words that I used before, because if you want to live a life that impacts others, maybe Ephesians 4:29 would speak into your heart, because you are in the word every day, where it says, do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth. And so it would change you. What other choices, if it would be 1,000 choices a day, if the Holy Spirit is working in your life where you might have more self-control, more patience, if you would choose to just be more loving, have peace with your different relationships, those are all choices. And so if you think about every single one of your choices, and that those choices have a ripple effect, then they're not just your choices. Those 1,000 choices a day for you, other people would be watching you and seeing how you respond to situations, seeing how you respond to emergencies. We had a weekend of weekends, like last weekend, but one was that my brother-in-law showed up and kind of surprised us that we didn't know he was coming over. He came over to say hi, and when he was at the door, there was a snake like right by his foot, and he didn't know. So when I opened the door and said hi to him, he didn't know. My husband said that it was a Mojave green. It ended up that it was pretty feisty, but just the whole thing, he was able to see like how all of us responded. Then we didn't know he was coming, and we were going to get up early the next morning to help my sister move, but we stayed and visited with him, and so it was nice. It ended up being like a good night. But it was just one of those things where all of our choices could be different based off of different circumstances, but it's not always going to be like that. So what are the choices that you decide to make during the day if you live with the lens that your choices affect others all the time? And those are huge and small choices. It could be you choose to wait and not do different things in a situation, and it could be that you are praying and fasting about a different job. There are choices that we're presented with every day that make a difference in the way that we live. If we know that our life impacts others, and if we know that we are making 1,000 choices a day that impact others, what are other people saying about our choices? Then their words are going to reflect us. So all of that makes a difference. A life of impact is always growing. So if we think of it that way, if we think that our life of impact is always growing and moving and going in a direction, then it should be that when people look at us, they see that we are someone that points them to what? What do we want our lives to point others towards? I want it to be that when people look at my life, they are pointed towards Jesus. I want it to be that when people look at my life, they are pointed towards compassion, towards kindness, towards giving, towards generosity, towards wanting kids that live godly lives. And so when other people look at you, do they see your life in that way? A comfort zone is just that. We talked about somewhat this in our other show about a lethargic posture to life. But I don't think when you just stay in your comfort zone, which a lot of us do, but I have also seen many people come out of their comfort zone and where God really helps them in this growth. But if you stay in your comfort zone, that's not always impacting people for the kingdom. So remember that if you are someone that is in a comfort zone right now, ask God to break you out of it and to have it be that you can live a life that impacts others. Whether you are a greeter at a church or that you are at home. If you look up Corrie ten Boom's story, which is amazing, she was a Christian that survived being in concentration camps, ended up being in Pasadena, California, and I remember her telling her pastor, how can my life impact others now? I can't even go anywhere. She was in her 80s, and he said, you can pray. And she did. She prayed and she talked to schools. And so when you live a life of impact as a lifestyle, everything you do and everything you say, people should be pointed towards something. So I encourage you today, what is it going to look like for you to live a life of impact? For it to be that your life would point others toward God, that they would point others toward goodness. One of my favorite verses is Galatians 6:9, and it's, do not grow weary in doing good, for in a proper time you'll reap a harvest if you don't lose heart. God knows that we're going to get tired, but he tells us to continually do good. And when you live your life like that, when that's how you are choosing to live, there's no way that you won't impact others in the things that you choose to do. Thank you for tuning in. Subscribe, share, encourage others with what we are just hoping that we are doing and praying, which is pushing you to live a life of impact and in your walk with God. Bye.